I know, it's just
Magical way.
all this tech stuff now that we have to
Stay on the plan.
do. Okay, I need
I don't know if anybody can hear me, but we can't hear you.
How important it is. Up on the top of this face, the first page shows Utah Avenue up there where SR 198 should be, and then Utah Avenue where it is really.
Oh,
You
right.
to see that that's not Utah
Oh, right.
Avenue.
Yeah, we just, yeah, he meant
Okay.
to actually type that one
Okay.
in as you.
Sounds good.
SR. Yeah, we got that. Thank you for the catching that.
Donna, can you hear us now?
If we use a microphone,
Yes, now I can hear you. Thank you. Thank you.
get better at that. The next page, one of the things we like to propose is that here's the different parking options. We have angled parking, which is now is existing on the far left. We have mixed parking, which is one side parallel and one side angled. And then on the very far is a parallel. And you can see the difference in the parallel situation. You have a lot more pedestrian way, less parking. And then the one that's mixed, you can see the combination. And then you can see what parking is eliminated and whatnot. But I tell you what, Main Street downtown Salt Lake did this, and now we've got 20-foot pedestrian way, and they've got really cool plazas, lots of places to spill out a lot for restaurants and whatnot. So we're hoping to get the parallel parking option as what we would like to see. But we wanted your input to make sure that would be appropriate for where you want to go. But we recommend that one because of the nice pedestrian way that we end up with.
So, yeah, I like the parallel parking. I know it takes the parking away, but we're also trying to, I mean, there's 200 stalls plus
Right.
around if we make it so people can get there and see that they can get there. But what it does is what we're trying to do is have like food courts and stuff downtown, and it just opens it up and kind of makes, to me, the feel that we're trying to get there. So I like the parallel parking.
It makes it easier for a food truck too. They like parallel parking stalls because they can just drive up and open up and showcase their. I wanted to, so City Creek, we did the 2 blocks for City Creek. And of the 2 blocks in City Creek, they have 5 total parking stalls. So doesn't that tell you that you don't necessarily need parking right in the front? You can, of course, they have 5,000 stalls below grade. But right up front, you can, they have people have to go find the parking and then you can get to it. So we're recommending the parallel. So that's something that we could include at the, when we come to the approval process. Go to the next one, Saxon. Here's what it looks like as far as if you were to cut the street and see a cross-section view, and you can see the angled parking is on the top, the combination is on the middle. It just gives you a feel in a section view what it would look like. And so you can see how much more room on the bottom one that you can do more eating, outdoor dining. And the top one, you have just a limited really sidewalk area. So it gives you a lot more flexibility, sidewalk sales, outdoor dining and whatnot for the parallel. All right.
I lied. I grabbed the mic.
No, you can.
I know. You guys just love to hear me. How come they're not balanced? Is there a reason for that? Is
Well,
that
in
just
some
a
of the-
concept plan or
Well, currently the road is kind of shifted to one side or the other as you're going along it.
right?
So that's we was generally just followed what the road is right now and just adjust that as we get to construction documents and make it balanced if that's the
Okay.
direction you want to go.
Well, I just was curious. I just didn't want to look like we were favoring restaurants on one side of the
Oh,
road versus
right.
restaurants
No,
on
we
the
don't
other
want
side
to
of
do
the
that
road. And-
necessarily, but we can balance it. That's an easy thing to do. Right now, we
No.
just kind of follow
Okay.
where the road's going as
No,
as
no,
we
that's
speak.
fine. Thank you.
Yeah, no, but good comment.
On that, Jay.
Yeah.
So if there's a water feature on that side, wouldn't it decrease? Make the
You
balance
would-
different?
You would definitely need to take some room to put the water feature in, but tell you what, water is a major attraction. The reason why City Creek
Right.
put the river in the middle of City Creek is so that people would come, right? So taking a little space out, maybe maybe we do scoot the road over a little bit and put on the area that's a little bit longer, but it would be generally in this
Right.
area.
Okay, yeah. By the tree.
I'm not 100% sure, but I thought I'm trying to talk really loud. I thought the point of the water feature was that we have something like City Creek that
Right.
was running water that we could pull up and out and just use that. And hopefully that wouldn't be played in and wouldn't have to recirculate because it's not coming back around. But I know that people downstream don't want.
Well, I talked to my
Waste
water
products.
guy about this specifically, and he said, is it going to be exposed to the public? And he said, I says, yes. He says, well, you'll need some sort of treatment to get past the health department. And he says, oh, okay, so we'll need so he said, but there, you don't have to do full treatment. And I said, so if you did full treatment and want to do water actually splash elements like I was talking about. He said, act 65,000 and you've got even kids playing in the water and we can have that level of treatment. So it's not a huge number to get some water actually on the sidewalk.
Well, most of the time it's culinary water pumped out of the park.
No, it is. It's
And
true.
so at what point in time does it become contaminated? Is it after it passes the people or is it
The
before?
health
the
department says once you come in contact with skin of a person, it needs to have some sort of a treatment.
It's the
Anything,
it's the
yeah.
after it's, we're not trying to keep.
And there's
the people
different
clean.
levels. If you just have
Okay.
the runnel, that's one level of treatment. But then if you actually have kids playing in it, then you got to go one more level up to
So,
satisfy. the
so if it's
requirement.
not like receptive, if we put rocks along the side of it and it's really not designed for playing in the water, then it's not necessarily. need to
It's a
be
level lower of treatment that we can get away with on that.
treated. Okay.
Yeah, the people that will be doing the water treatment, they got to understand all these guidelines will help us with that.
I know down St. George, they have a water feature by one of their parks and I haven't seen, of course, I haven't been there 24 hours a day,
Right.
but it's not easy for kids to play in that.
No,
so,
yeah, that's the one that we're kind of patterning this
Yes.
out after, because it's right by the tabernacle.
Yes.
It's right in front of that.
Yes.
And it looks,
That's the
it's
one.
cool. It gives you a refreshing feel. You see water, you hear water.
Yep.
And once in a while, a kid will play in it, just splash once, but it's so small that they don't want to stay there too
Okay.
much. time
And that's a
inside that
lower
ocean.
level that we'd have to
Right.
comply to.
So those are some of the options. All right, let's go to the next page. So this actually shows you one of the things that in one of our meetings, we talked about even creating some more pass-throughs. So this is a potential pass-through that we were aware of. You could potentially actually create some more pass-throughs if a building happened to go away. There's one that could happen. And the sketch on the right-hand side actually has a runnel going off of a planter, if you'll see that. So the one that says proposed has a little sketch in there that would show you how maybe a runnel might work on the side of the road.
You know, one of the meetings I brought up, maybe a pipe dream, but having another access on the east side like we do on the west side. And, you know, there is a place there that I understand has been recently purchased, but the possibility of utilizing that as a
Covered
breezeway,
access, yeah.
breezeway and from that parking lot on the east side as
Right,
well.
so that's the one we're pointing out right there on that sketch. So there's more opportunities to connect more to the parking, which would be wonderful. The next page gives you some sketches as far as what the pass-through might look like. And that's what their paving might be in the kind of the mid-block area. And then connecting, that's one of the pass-throughs, and we showcase the signage you've already got there and some of the plantings and trees and things that need to be introduced back into Main Street. Give you some feel for it. Go ahead. Here, let me give you a mic so people can hear you.
So back page on the proposal with the rental right here, is that showing the new width?
Yeah.
Or is that just?
No, it would be the parallel parking scenario. So it has a little bigger width on the side.
So it should actually come out farther than that, right? Is that what you're saying, or is that including with the parallel parking option?
Right. It'd probably be parallel parking. We could probably make it work with both. That's really the next level for us, is to take that one more detail and actually design it to be the right width. Whenever we pick whichever one we're going to go with.
I might mention, you've got one earmarked there in between 100 North Utah Avenue. The one I was actually thinking was a little bit further south from there.
Okay. Yeah,
But-
whatever everyone we can
Yeah.
get, we'll take.
But the concept's there.
Right.
Place right
Yeah, it's a, come on over right over here. if you
Okay,
would.
okay, got it. Where it actually says phase 4.
Yeah.
Make a note of that one, Justin. It's actually with it's labeled phase
Oh,
4.
okay, good.
Thanks for clarifying, Mary. Appreciate it. Right. Even if it's tight, if you can get a little bit of width in there, it make a nice connection. You can kind of see a couple other, there's more images there that we're kind of trying to show the character, but we're thinking about the pass-throughs and some of the paving would look like. And then we start getting into the signage and vertical elements. Maybe get to that slide. Here we go. Here's the vertical elements. So one of the things that we've done a lot of our downtowns, it's hard to see things that are on the ground when people are passing through. So we were thinking about introducing in the middle picture, a vertical element that might be the gateway as you're coming into the downtown from I-15. And it would be an area, we have actually matched some of the materials you have downtown with the brick. And then putting that there, you could actually have signage on those bands or say something about Payson downtown or whatever. but that would welcome you into the city. The one we've done one in Park City that has actually lighting with similar to this, but put lights on it so it tracks at night. But it gives you another kind of a placemaking thing. That's usually where people will stop and take a picture and selfie it on Instagram or whatever. So we want to create those kind of opportunities. Or you can see the ones right next to it, the two that we did at Park City that have, one of them has kind of a woody kind of a brackets, and the other one's concrete. With this one would be made out of bricks to match your downtown area. And then we have on the decorative light to match some of the decorative light you have there, and we could actually do banners and flowers. So you could dress up the downtown even a little bit more with some of these. We need to get something up and vertical and in kind of in your view shed, so they're more noticeable. Here are the benches and the lights. See, some of these are existing lights that you have. That's what the ones we are matching for the lights that we're bringing in. And then some of the furniture that people here that have liked and what we want to recommend to use in the downtown area. Go ahead. Hang on. Get your mic here. Very good.
Will all of the ground cover that's down here have sprinkling system?
Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, whatever.
No, the ground cover is going to be one of the things we want to do too, is we're freshening up all the irrigation. We've talked to Parks and Rec, and it sounds like the system's kind of old and antiquated. So we want to make sure we're upgraded on the system. So you have the latest technology, the most water conserving, easiest to maintain irrigation system. So part of this process is the whole street's being tore up because these guys are doing utilities. So it gives us an opportunity to upgrade the irrigation and get it to be the best quality that we have.
So are we just gonna do wall to wall, take everything out, start over with new trees kind of a thing? Or do you think some of those trees are savable?
We like,
or-
it's probably good to have an arborist take a look at the ones that would be worth saving, because we could work around them if they're healthy.
Okay,
So probably one of the first phases that we do is have them go look at them and say, is this worth fixing, or is it going to be dying soon, or is it halfway healthy? So we can do that kind of analysis to just make sure, because I know you have half a dozen or so that are pretty big, pretty nice.
right.
So, right. So it would be nice to have them take a look.
And
at
we
those
just did
trees.
have them all professionally pruned and they looked
Right.
at them, and some of them were, but struggling, but
Right.
yeah, I don't want to.
No, if they're nice and clean and good, we might as well keep them, because it takes a long
But
time.
if they're pushing up concrete and growing into buildings, they might need to go too.
Right.
So as we start to look at them.
Yeah, so we'll work with your arborist to determine which ones are worth keeping. All right, let's keep going, Saxon. Here's some of the tree grays, and some of the paving that people have liked, as we've shown different patterns. We're probably in those kind of more of the beigey color system. And then the tree grates would be ones that are small enough holes that the women's high heels won't get stuck in them. We've actually done some, the fire pit on the top is a project we did up. This is actually in Rexburg, so they need some fire warmth up there in the 30 below zero. So we actually have, so we'll have some fire pits downtown. So that there's 2 or 3 options that you can do. There's a couple in Salt Lake that really are popular during the cooler times of the year also. And then here's a couple of examples of some runnels. They could be as simple as that. I mean, they're really easy to put in, but they do, it's a fun attraction. And then the one on the top is the one that's actually in St. George that the mayor was just talking about. And that we're kind of patterning after that one also, where we can have maybe a planter that water falls out of. And that way you get a little sound. That's one of the things that's refreshing, is if you can hear water, that helps you feel good about being the downtown.
And then we've talked about those features, the fire pits could be movable and taken out during the summer and brought back in the winter.
Easily, yeah. You can make a connection in a box. You actually connect to it, and when you're done with it, you can connect it, put the flat back down, and you can remove it. We have some cities that actually have portable planters that way too. They would move back inside in the wintertime. So that's something we could talk about as an option.
Suggest that the Parks Department's gonna want to build them.
Yeah, yeah. They've been involved. We've been talking to them, and they yes, right. Go ahead.
Hey,
go to the next
Jay,
one.
are those significant costs for the gas lines?
Most of the places, I don't know, if you looked at gas, is gas pretty well available in the Main Street area? It is right behind the buildings. So anyway, if it's in the front, it'll be really easy. Oh, so maybe the gas line would be in front. Anyway, that, as long as we have a line close, it's not too expensive to get it to work. We just had to put a tap to it in a box, and then you have just like your barbecue has a little thing that connects into it. So when it gets to cost, we want to show you the three options is probably the biggest swing in cost. Most typically we do pavers over rat slab, which is on the far left, which you put a piece of concrete. You can see maybe I'll go up here and point to it so you can see what I'm talking about. You put a layer of concrete below the pavers. So this is like your subgrade. This is like regular dirt, and this is road base. This is concrete, and then a little bit later sand, and then the pavers are here. This cross section makes it so you could drive over with a car. It's pretty permanent. It holds pedestrians as well as cars if you go a little thicker. So this is pretty common. All of Salt Lake we did is this detail. If you don't put cars on it, you can take this concrete rat slab out and do a road base with sand and pavers, which is a little bit cheaper, or then just the colored concrete. Ogden, they're downtown with just colored concrete, which is this cross section, which is road base and just concrete on top. And then we'd pick a color that kind of matches the pavers, the colors that we have here. And you'll see, well, we actually put the cost. This is what it does to the cost. So this is the most expensive at 9.3 million. You can see what this one does, 8.5, and regular concrete with color is 7.7. So you can see there's a lot of it. So changing just a few dollars a square foot is a pretty big swing.
Well, and couldn't you also, with the colored concrete, go with stamped colored concrete, and then you have the paver look without the paver cost?
That was going to be my comment also, just
That's
because
a-
of the
that's a
weather,
very-
the extremes we
That's a
have.
very easy
one way and
option
the
for
other.
colored concrete.
I love colored concrete. I don't like stamped concrete. This is the reason why. The minute it cracks and you want to fix it, you can't match it, and it looks really. You can all Salt Lake
All
stamped
concrete cracks.
It does crack.
Period.
And you
It's-
can
It's a foregone conclusion that it will crack.
no.
So what
no
you do
argument
is you
there.
control the cracks,
I know,
and then
I
it's
got
not a
it.
problem.
Okay,
Colored concrete cracks, period.
got it. I've seen it and I've dealt with it my whole life. Right. No, we're on the same page as far as that goes. But Salt Lake switched their their pavers in their sidewalks to stamp, and now they're broken, and now they look. Go see them. It looks really crappy. But if concrete, it's a little easier to match than stamped concrete. So there's my soapbox answer to stamp. I'm not a big fan. I have the people call us and try to get us to fix it. And we're like, well, tear it out, start over. So,
That's true.
right, right.
Just from the engineering side, I want to weigh in on that a little bit too. So actually we've seen a big move away from the stamped concrete just because of the snow and the plows and it breaking, and then it chips up off the top.
It looks
So
good the first couple of years.
we've seen most of our cities that we worked with recently have moved away from that. And I'm in agreement with Jay as far as the concrete goes.
So I got
maintenance
a question for you, because I like the pavers because it just sets it apart. And just the concrete, even though it's colored, is a lot different. Is there a way to do a combination? So certain places you have the pavers and certain places you have the concrete, so you have that contrast?
Oh, easily. That's a great idea too. We could phase it out a little bit more and say, okay, let's do pavers here, because some areas are a lot, like maybe the pavers are in the main street only, and then the concrete's on the backs. We could do that because that's about a half and 2/3. That would save a decent amount of money also.
Yeah, one thing we've done, even with Jay's group, if you go down to like the jazz arena, there's banding of pavers. So you have
Right.
concrete with some banding of pavers, and sometimes you put them on the corner of the street, and be strategic about where you place those, and you still get some of that feel.
Yeah, we could do that. Salt Lake does that too. They call it 80-20 because 80% is concrete, 20% is this banding. And then sometimes they'll do the other way, is 80% brick and 20% is concrete. So, but that's another way. Good point. We
Well,
could-
and structurally, that actually helps with keeping the pavers in place.
Right.
By
yeah, because
by
it has,
enclosing it in
yes,
concrete.
so they don't wander on you. Yeah.
Total project, or is that just concrete?
Well, that's total project.
Okay. I'm looking at this going, well, it sounds like the sewer treatment. plant.
We'll get to the final cost. We just want to show you the whole project total, how big of the swing was. We'll get to that in a few pages. Go ahead, Saxon. Let's go to the next page. Oh, speaking of cost estimate, here we are. So we broke, this is the overall cost, and what we did is on the right-hand side here, we broke it down into phase. So this one, go back over to this, go back to that bigger view, Saxon, I'll kind of introduce how it goes. So this one is the overall. Yeah, do a zoom, there you go, right there. So this one is, you can see on the top, this is pavers over concrete option. So it has that, page it down just a little bit so we can see the bottom number. This is that 9 point. There we are, the 9.3 number. So this one will show you, it's right, the pavers are right here. So this is a number that flexes with the different paving options. You'll see the next cost estimate has the next layer down, next layer down. But then this shows the phases 1, A and B. Go to the top, Saxon, so we can see how they're broken down. Just page up a little bit. One more page. There we go. So it has phase 1. There's 1A, 1B, 2, 3, and 4. So that lines up with the phasing plan that you saw second page in.
So the other thing to look at closely is, so if you scroll down a little bit, there's a red area that represents the civil cost, and that would be all of the utilities and the curb and gutter and everything. So that's kind of like a baseline of what the base is going to be for the project. That number, and I can't tell from here, but it's
4.609. So just under 5 million.
That's for the whole stretch, all the way to 7th, all the way down to Main Street utilities. And so the only difference is there would be some sidewalk that would be associated with that number, but that's kind of like the bare minimum just to get the project done from the utility side and the road improvements. And so it's important to look at that number in comparison to the number for Jay's work.
The aesthetic stuff is 2.8 in this one, and you can you see that the other options, you'll see it going down whether you're using pavers or concrete. But you can see at 5 million is about where Greg's at on utilities, and then the cool stuff is
Right.
the other 2.5 million in this option. Sorry.
Yep.
He's gonna say the utilities are cool stuff.
I just had a question on the power. We didn't have the power, none of the power issue on the utility side. So where are we gonna figure that in at?
Do we have that in there, Greg, the power side? Okay, we would have to bring that in. We do have the light poles, and we have a little bit of money in the light poles to actually string the power. So really the only thing we're missing is the conduit for the power. So we just need to add that to the utility.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
conduit wouldn't be too much of an add because we have,
I just didn't know what the extent was. I'm Brad, by the way. I'm
yeah, thanks for
representing the
coming.
Power department tonight with.
I probably
Ryan's out
have
of town.
$5,000 a light pole budgeted right now. So for all those lights and you add that all up, you should have enough money to get the conduit at least connected. So just probably the wire that we're missing.
Okay. Because I noticed even further down to the south, we don't. we'll
Right,
probably
now
wanna
that
do some
area,
stuff
I don't
there.
have that in my cost, so we'd have to look at that. So
Okay.
it's something we need to note.
We'd just like to get with you and make sure we.
Yeah, I've got to have that
get enough
covered.
In there for power.
Lighting
too.
is big.
And whether we want to do anything, with the existing overhead lines coming into the area, stuff like that too. So that's something to consider also. Thank you.
What's the total cost for all the phases?
Total cost for all the phases with the paver over rat slab is 9.359 million.
All phases?
All phases.
Okay.
Tomorrow will be.
Yeah, we gotta hurry and get this built while the costs are fresh.
Care if it gets built, just get the stuff bought.
Right. Well, no, that's a good point. If we can get lights, we can get pavers, all those things bought now. Well, yeah, right. We got all these challenges that we got to work with. That's right. So let's go to the next option, Saxon. Let's just show the difference in cost. Really, it's that paver option is the big swing. So this, yeah, go to the, where was this the next one? Okay, this is pavers of concrete. Go to the next page. So this is over road base. Go down to the bottom line. Let's see what that looks like. So that one's is the 8.5, and then the concrete option, go page down one more. Was that, yeah, you saw that, it was a 7. And once again, yes, let's leave it right here for a minute. You can see the other thing I wanted you to look at is this is phase 1, and it's a huge phase at 7 million. So one of the things we could consider is if you want to break Main Street up into 2 pieces, you could phase it that way and take this number down not quite half, but a little bit more palatable, but that's a pretty big chunk. The rest of the faces, you can see 300,000, 200,000, 100,000, 100,000, 100,000. So
Yeah, if you wait 3 to 5 years,
those are going to go up, right?
and then you're gonna have a hard time matching.
So taking the big bite is probably smart, right?
Yeah, you stated it, if we don't do this in one fell swoop, the cost will go up and maybe our impetus to do it will go away
Right.
too. And
You got the
so
vision now, right?
I'm in favor of doing it in one fell swoop and doing it the phases as far as which phase follows the other one.
Right.
Yeah, and I think you'd lose the wow factor if you only do half of it. People are gonna come in and go, this is all we got.
This
you
is
know,
it.
and I think-
Right. Can you back up?
Another,
Saxon?
another thing too is if we don't do it all, it doesn't tie the parking in, which is one of the big things. We don't get that parking tied in. So
Yeah, it would be cool if we could take the big bite, that's for sure. And you've got some of the money already funded, so it's just a matter of coming with the last little, the aesthetic part. The last little bit, the tiny little bit, the best part.
These are engineers.
That's why I got the mic,
It's only
right?
about
Talking aesthetics.
30%, isn't it? 40.
it's only about half the ball fields that we just paid for. So
Okay, the rest of the slides was actually utility plan. Maybe I'll get to turn it over to Greg and you can talk about utilities unless you got a question.
Well, and
there's-
another option would be that you do a mix of rat slab and base, depending on where it's
Right.
at.
Right.
And so that could lower the cost a little bit from the Cadillac, but you'd still have a really nice
Right.
system.
And that's a phasing option we haven't tried, but we can definitely do something like that. break it
Well,
apart and show you
there's
how
no
it
reason to
works.
put
Yeah.
drivable
On a
underneath
walk.
where it's walking only, period.
Exactly. Exactly. So you could do like that over road base. I mean, there's things how we can mix it up like that.
Still a wide enough driveway that if we even to be, I mean, if it's wide enough, we're gonna use our Bobcat to plow it versus shovels from the Parks Department. So that's something you gotta consider. Well, yeah, I'm just saying that if we do need to get up and down it with Parks equipment and stuff, I don't know if that little bit of use would matter. An occasional vehicle or something on there is still okay, but
I
heavy
think
car use-
for the sidewalks along Main Street, you would want a heavier duty, especially if you're planning to use it for events and you may have trucks park on the side and
right. And
maybe for movies and
parade
sets and
routes
stuff
and
like
things like
that.
that.
It just makes sense for those potential areas for equipment to be a little heavier, and then maybe some of the passageways that don't get as much traffic be a little bit different. But that's, those are things we can dial that budget in a little bit closer as we move along with design and get it closer on price. We did include a 20% contingency in that number as well. So there's, because we're not developed far enough in the design.
April 15th, I think we got.
Yeah, so it's good for the next month, right? Or week.
This is a 30-day good bid.
So, we will want to get, contractor bids as we get further along to reflect some of those items, because we are seeing long lead times on 20 to 28 weeks on concrete, pipe and boxes, and it's, oil is $800 a ton, just for that. So things have really skyrocketed, but that's just stuff we can watch and look for the right products to make it better.
can you send the budget to somebody so they can send it out to us? We didn't,
Right.
that's not in here. So
Yeah, no, I'll save it to you. In fact, I'll deliver it to you.
Yeah,
Did-
It's red on the top and we're just gonna page.
I've got a question. I can't remember, Dave. Who was it, or Mayor, who was it that told us we had to have parking on Main? Yeah.
We could have limited.
Not having it.
Are you suggesting removal of all parking on
Yeah,
Main?
That's what I, just a thought.
That's, I mean, that's on the table, right? As an option.
One of the things we're talking about too is putting removable bollards on both sides of Main Street and making it really easy to shut down anytime you want. So it would be that, you know, it would be shut down when you want to. And if you didn't want to, when it's regular time, when people would want to get through, you could take the bollards up and then let traffic go. So you'll have both options. So you can shut it down or you can leave it open. Permanent, oh, parking. You're not having parking at all. So I'm saying if you're going to shut down parking, you might as well make the whole thing pavers. So you wouldn't have, that's what. Right. See what we did at City Creek was by Cheesecake, we just have the bollards in the paver fill. So it looks like a car that shouldn't be there, but they go in there anyway. It's kind of cool. Anyway.
I'm thinking if we totally get rid of parking, we're gonna have a lot of people that complain because they already say there's not enough parking, especially a lot of the comments. So I think we gotta kind of leave some parking there. Yeah, yeah.
I think we moved from 70 something to 36 with parallel. Yeah, 36.
So the next slides is the utilities that Greg will run through quick.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure that you're aware that the cost included some of this work. And you can see on the right, we have kind of a scroll plot of the length of the corridor with the utilities. And so at this point, the Main Street portion, we've left pretty rough because we didn't know the direction we were headed today. And what we'd really like to get out of this, that's kind of the next step for the engineering side, is to understand and get an agreement on the direction for downtown as far as how those utilities will lay out.
A question here, because we talked about signage and parking, but I think the signage needs to include the parking areas also. So when you're coming into, there's big sign that says Main Street parking here, you know, because right now everybody just drives up, go down Main Street, looks for a place to park, you know, and a lot of people don't even think about parking around the backside and access. So I think if we're going to do this, we have to have some type of attractive signage there on these areas, you know, so people, when they're coming in, they can say, oh, there's a parking lot right here. We can access Main Street. So
Yeah, that's a good point. It's definitely something that will be included.
Behind or back.
Yeah, there'll be.
No, I just want to talk about funding once you.
Yeah. And there's not a lot to cover here. We can just kind of scroll through these quickly. Most people don't want to see the water line, the sewer, but I mostly just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that that was part of the cost. Since we're talking downtown, but there's a lot of utility work that's taking place along Main Street headed to 700 South. It includes fixing some of the, you know, the deep curb and gutter accesses on the west side of the road. And so we're going to, you know, super elevate the road and make those cleaner. So I just wanted everyone to be aware that that work's ongoing, and we're in the process of designing that. And there's probably not a lot of questions about that. So
Just real quick, that would be covered in roughly the $5 million we've already got from state, from 100 to 700. Okay.
So what's really nice about that, getting the $5 million, that covers stuff that we would have had to cover and pay for at some point in time, because that was old infrastructure. So it kind of gives us a little bit of breathing room to maybe come up with other money to do the downtowns, because we don't have to do infrastructure on top of it. So.
And I might mention, we're not against where we saw such a drastic in cost increase, that we're not against going back to the state and saying, hey, help us a little bit too, if that's a possibility. And it may be, we don't know.
yeah, some of the ARPA funding that's out there for sewer and storm, and yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to see what the councils, I mean, you looked at the Cadillac, the bottom number, maybe a combination of different ones, but yeah, how do we come up with the money? So there are a couple of options. We've looked at our fund balance, and we have some money in the general fund balance. We are over the amount that we're supposed to have. And this is just like a shot in time. I mean, if the revenues come in as projected, if they've been coming in, we could have about 3.4 million that we could use toward that. That wouldn't get us clear to the 9 point something. That's why I was more concerned about the phasing. I know there were some comments that you got to do it all or it's going to cost more money. But if we did the main phase 1 of all of Main Street, then the next year, the amounts are smaller and we might could do it over a period of years. I don't know where we would get additional money over the 3.4 million. And that would take a lot of our fund balance in that area, but it's something that it sounds like the council wants to do. We're happy to do that. But I just wanted to get the feeling on the council, because I know there's been a mention, well, let's put it out to a bid for the, let's put it out and see if the citizens will approve that. I think that would be a very difficult sell to go to the public and say, we're going to put that out to a vote to add money for downtown. I just don't know if it would pass, to be all honest with you. So I just wanted your comments. If you want to go down this path and get the whole thing done, we're going to have to be creative. And Mayor, I think we could go back to the state. I don't know if they would give us any extra money.
One thing on the phasing to remember too, is it will take some time to build this and construct it in a way that keeps the businesses with access.
Correct.
So you're not going to come in and, this next year and just tear everything out and get it all done. So when we talk phasing, that phasing can look differently. It could be, we're doing the whole thing, but it takes, a
couple of
2
budget
years
years
or a couple of years, and it's still all part of the same project. And so you may want to look at it in kind of that type of fashion, and not so much of, okay, it's all one giant construction right now, but maybe over a couple seasons.
I got it.
I think that, that would help an awful lot. The thing I want to avoid is getting a big head of steam and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, council change or whatever, that it doesn't happen. And so that's my main thing. And if we can phase it that way and it makes sense, then I think that's a wonderful way to go.
I would favor letting us look at that budget. We're all sitting here. Right now, I'm saying that we've got 8.4 if we use Dave's figure with the 5 million that we've got from the state. I'd like to look at the numbers. They kind of go down my path.
An 8.4 might be enough.
An 8.4 may be enough to do what we want to do.
If you got decent bids.
So I'd favor getting those numbers in front of us. Let us, making a hybrid of what you got. More in the 8 that we can manage. That we could. I'm telling you, I've built too many projects to phase them. It's just not good. It's just not the way to do something like this in this proportion.
Yeah, and I guess that when you're looking at it, it's probably a 2-year project, so it could be over a 2-year budget, right? And so I think that would, if we had the 3.5 million and another million or so the next year, I think that'd probably cover it. But also, knock on wood, if our sales tax, we've done really well, but then we have Paris RV coming online, and that should increase our sales tax quite a bit too. So that should help us financially in the city. So.
One thing that I wanted to point out, Mayor and I were just discussing, we're still dealing with the downtown fire station, which is all part of phase 4, that we could maybe put that towards a bond and say, hey, we want to build 2 new fire stations and build one right here on this block, one out on the south end of town. And maybe we could incorporate that as part of redoing that phase 4 parking lot, which would now become city property right there, and realigning some of that and with the ACE and stuff that we've talked about. But so yeah, and that would be maybe we could do an election on something like that. And we're not trying to sell the redoing of downtown, but actually we're trying to improve safety and by creating that new fire station.
So one thing that I want to talk about too is from, if the council is in favor of this type of design, this is the direction we want to go, and we're just looking at funding, from our standpoint, we'd like to move forward with design and get it all designed, and then allow the city to work on, the funding side. And then we can help to bring the cost more in line and adjust cost, products and materials and things like that. So we can kind of fine tune this cost. I think that would be important to have that done.
I think that'd be a good way to go. We need to know what the end result would look like being fully engineered, and then we can look at the numbers and bring them together.
So Dave, you're giving us the green light at 8.4.
Sure.
And I know that that's a stretch, and it's kind of like, well, you're dropping some little numbers like that, but we know we've got the 5 covered. And if you think we can get the 3.4, if you can get us back and keep us within that,
So
give
we,
or take a little bit, we can find the other monies.
we've received from the state so far we've got one more tranche that we need to receive. We got one today, actually, but so we're 3.75 million that we've received. We'll get one more probably in June.
That'll pay it off.
That'll be the 5 million that they've agreed to give us. The 3.4, we're just looking at our best estimate based on how the revenues have come in. But if the council's comfortable with that, I think a couple of things, if we could get the agreements tonight or the consensus tonight, is first the parallel versus the angle parking, some of the water features, and then if we want to do a mixture of the pavers, or colored concrete and some of those things, that would give our consultants the go ahead to keep moving forward. And then, we could refine those numbers as we need to, but we have enough to start going. And Travis, I'm not sure, for part of this project, we did a GC portion, didn't we, for the downtown? We could start moving with the contractor and start getting some of these things purchased. Because I just know that every time we put a bid out for the last 3 months, it's 200,000 or 300,000 more, and these are small. Once we're in this 9 million, it could go to 12 million. And so the quicker we can come to a consensus of what direction we want to go with Main Street, the better.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Having either a contractor on from a CMGC side or professional estimators, some individuals that's what they do is price is important to to really dial this in, because this is engineering estimate. We've taken these numbers from bids that we've received in the last couple months, and but they're at the forefront seeing those dollar amounts every day, and so they'd be able to advise us on if you make this change, it'll save this money, and maybe look this direction or this type of product.
I favor the very fact that you've got, if I seen you had a 20% contingency, which at 8 million, 8.5 million, it's 1.6.
Yeah, it's a big number. Yeah.
I say we don't even, that's a rainy day.
Right.
We leave it there and we don't count on that for anything except what I'm hearing everybody say, because it's going to happen.
Well, one thing, if you give us a target like you're talking about to work from, we can work the combination of concrete and pavers and give you something that hits your target. And if we just have a target budget number that you want us to try for, we can do it.
8.4.
Yeah, see, that's great. If you give it 8.4,
I like that.
we can,
That's the money we got.
we can find a design that will fit that budget.
But that 8.4 is for just the main street itself without any add-ons. So what about another million for the next year?
No, 8.4 is the whole project.
What, that was with all the phases?
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of taking the
Okay,
pavers down
okay,
to a
I
little
thought
bit
it
of
was-
concrete. If
I
we-
thought you had the 8.4 and then the
No,
phases after that.
No, it would be
Okay.
the total project if we went down to more concrete and less pavers.
Yeah,
Well, and another thing that the engineer brought up here is if you get a contractor on board now, where you're at 30% design or whatever, or 60% design, you will actually probably save money in the long run.
Yeah.
because the contractor can help you save money with a CMGC. They really can. He knows all those kind of things. And so if you can bid it now and get a contractor in place now, you're better off.
And just throwing this off the council, it sounds like that we do want some parking on Main Street, albeit maybe parallel parking.
I think it's only fair, if everybody can hear me, I think it's only fair that the actual downtown merchants buy off on what we're talking here. They're the ones that, you know, ultimately.
representative here.
Yep. But realistically, I think of the Gateway, I think of two in particular that I've spent a lot of time in Florida with. They don't have vehicular parking on that main. They've got, even in the winter time, now Florida's a little different than here, but my whole jest is we don't need much parking on Main Street. Citizens will still come. If you put the right businesses and the right atmosphere there, they'll come.
And exactly what Kit said too, make sure they're aware of that parking
Yep.
from the get-go.
Yep. So maybe just some handicap, some ADA parking would be beneficial. I don't know. I just,
I don't think all of
You know, on City Creek, that's what they did. The only parking they have is loading and ADA
Yep.
and 2 or 3 stalls of regular parking, and the rest of it,
sure give us an opportunity to do more landscape
Oh,
and
it's-
more greenery.
you
and-
get more aesthetics.
Yeah.
You're getting the head shake the other way, you better take the mic. It's now or never.
You know, I love the aesthetics, but as a merchant, I want some parking. Like, I think parking is important at this point. I can see maybe phasing it out at some point, but our customers need some convenience.
Is it parallel
And I
parking
know-
gonna be sufficient?
I would personally would rather see the mix of parallel and diagonal parking.
Just to his point, I kind of agree. I'm indifferent. But then again, my industry isn't every day got to kill the bear like some of these retailers.
What is it you operate? The what? Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
Theirs
they
is walk-in ties more.
right,
internet.
and that makes sense.
mine's a mix. I mean, I do
What is-
have clients, but it's like they have to come see me. So even if they have to park 2 miles down the road,
They're gonna
you
come.
know.
Well, and I kind of wonder how
Robert,
much of
Jill?
it is customer parking versus
I
how
want
many of them are
airfill.
employees that just park out there because it's convenient too, you know?
I'd like to hear planning department's take on it.
It's beautiful. I would say that before you made a decision to remove all the parking, I think that we would study that a little bit more rather than just a one question thing in a work study meeting. I think that it's a possibility, but I would also, want to really survey that, because I think that there's some advantage to having it there for activation purposes, but especially because it has the ability to shut down the entire street whenever we want with the bollards and everything. We have the flexibility, but once it's removed completely, the flexibility goes away. And especially with a lot of the modular elements that they have, talked about, there are a lot of ways to really configure this space in whatever is necessary at the moment. But once elements are taken away, it's difficult to put them back.
I just was gonna say, Bob, the majority of the merchants down there are gonna be along with Mortensen and Frame. They want that parking because they need that, because otherwise their clients are gonna just keep driving to Walmart where there is parking.
Which is farther away than they would if they
Yeah.
parked.
Right, right.
So
That's how they get you.
That's why I wanted to hear, but I also think of the food court that's coming. They're not gonna care. They're gonna park around that back and use that alleyway to come in and utilize that. So I think a mix, I think what Robert said makes sense. We can stay flexible. I like that.
Kelly, I have a question for you. So do you think if we really let people know, I mean, there's lots of parking down there's not used. You think if we really let people know and have pathways from the back to the front, that will help, that'll be okay for your business? I still want some parallel parking down there, but do you think that would help?
My battery's not gonna die now.
I think it would help. And I know there's parking in back, but I don't think on a busy day that helps us that much. You know, the restaurants, which are a good thing, but you come down there at lunch hour and there's no parking.
Well,
So-
the advantage to them not parking right in front as well is now you get foot traffic that's going to be passing in front of your store that normally wouldn't be there. And I wonder if that would boost your sales as well. If they've got to park in the back and then walk around to get to said restaurant that's staying busy, if we eliminate a parking stall for them, all of a sudden you get foot traffic. And I mean, that is an optimistic
Which
way
would
to
help
look at it.
some merchants and slightly us, but if someone's packing something in to have it framed, we don't rely on the foot traffic for that.
Yeah. Do you have a
We're
rear
destination.
entrance or?
We do have a rear entrance and we need to work on that, but it's a workshop area,
Right.
not something.
No, and
I'm
that
real
is
happy to have people passing through.
But a delivery, you could have a
Deliveries, yeah.
designated parking stall out back that says this is only for dropping off of frames. They come down, they come around, and then they go pick it up, and it's right there, and they're not
And
carrying
deliveries
it. but-
aren't my concern.
Well, I
They'll-
meant just as a
they'll drop
customer.
off wherever.
Right.
It's the customers.
Yeah.
And their convenience.
I'm just trying to think outside the box. And to me, we're looking at 60. It's a 12 stall cut every time we do it. So you're going from 60 to keep it the way it is, to 48 to put parallel on one side, to 36 for parallel on both sides. And I still think that 36, that's, what is it? There's four blocks, 2 per side, or whatever. It's 2 blocks, 4 sections. You're still talking, 8 cars that would park in one block on you. Well, I guess it's both sides. Anyway, I'm talking and I'm rambling and I apologize. But to me, 36 is still enough if we just went to the parallel, but.
No, Robert's got something to say, but another thing going along with that is we need to put something up. There's a limit amount of parking time because we got people that park there all the time. That'll open up help too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, that I think this becomes part of the programmatic part of this change, is that actually regulating the time that people are parked there is going to be a key element in whatever parking arrangement we have, that you have to get people moving in and out of it. You can't have your employee parked out there for 10 hours in a day, right?
Well, and
Like,
there are apartments above too.
Yeah.
And some of those people live there.
so
I mean,
those
could we
are the
put-
people that need to be
In the
parking
back.
in the back.
Yeah.
And then that.
They should be, but, and we're back to that. And I just wonder if there's a parking meter out there that you just walk up and click it. It gives you the first 30 minutes free. And if you're there longer than that, then it starts to charge. But I don't know. There's no revenue to be made with that. And then you're paying for meters that don't get used. But
But also, if we can get the people who are in the apartments where they understand that, once this is beautified and you've done all the work to get all the parking fixed behind, it'll be a nicer parking lot for the residents to park in. How many apartments do we have downtown? 20? So there's probably 30 cars that are on Main Street or thereabouts that park there all the time that shouldn't be parked there. Right? So there's your 30 parking spots. So
Our tenants park in the back.
yours do.
And I think the other apartment next to it.
Is there 20 though? Is there 20 apartments?
I don't think
downtown?
there's that many.
I thought there were- I
don't
thought
think-
there
is
was
that
maybe
many? I
18.
don't think, are there?
10 or
20? Yeah, 10 or
Okay.
12, I would think. Yeah. Okay, just for time's sake, and we're not screwing this down absolute, but I hear the engineers saying they want kind of an idea to work towards. So I think the general consensus is maybe mixed, that we kind of look at. Is that fair to say?
I
like the mixed idea.
Okay.
the,
Parallel and the parking. Oh, okay.
well,
Okay.
are we talking the parallel there? they have an option here called mixed parking, which is parallel and angled parking.
Mayor is saying.
And so is that the one that we're?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Just so we can give them.
Can we just do a vote on it? I don't even care if it's vote with everybody in the room. Oh, I like the mixed option. I don't like going down parallel and cutting just that many more spaces.
I think one idea about the mixed is parallel parking is an easier parking to do away with. So if you want to start phasing parking out, you got it on both sides now, angled. Parallel, you do away with one side down the road once everybody gets accustomed to that. And then in the future, maybe you do away with it all, but late on the mic, but do away with it all. But I'm
Yeah, actually, it was there for a lot longer than you thought. I don't know, Mayor. Can we just poll the room? I want everybody's opinion. It's a small, and it is just a snippet and.
Go.
Just a random comment, and people smarter than me can hopefully answer this, but we're trying to revitalize the downtown. Why? Is that because we want to get more people to come there? But now we're reducing the amount of parking. I'm trying to figure out how that works. I mean, why the idea of taking fewer parking stalls when we're trying to get more people there?
Trying to make more aesthetic that. Why did I go to the Main Street Board? I went there because everybody told me it was so beautiful that I parked probably 10 blocks away and pushed a stroller, and my wife pushed the other twin in another stroller and went all the way
So
there.
was that a really big city in
No,
Florida?
It is, yeah.
I mean, this is Payson, and maybe it'll be that big someday, but I don't see people wanting to park 3 blocks away to get to Main Street.
Well, one of the goals is to make that an area as walkable as possible,
Sure.
a walkable area. And, I think that's one of the goals that we had was to make it walkable, but maybe this isn't a good comparison because we have grown, but when I was a kid, all of it was parallel parking. I don't think there was any angle parking there. So.
It was
a
two-way street at one point.
Yeah, it was a two-way street
yeah.
at one time. But
It's just a question. I'm not necessarily advocating one way or the other. I can parallel park, it doesn't bother me, but it does seem like a pretty drastic reduction in the number of parking stalls when you only have 270 to take 30 of them out. Just my thoughts.
I know a place where we put lots of parking stalls in if we want is on the street by the fire station. That's a big wide street and it's hard to use at all because it goes to nowhere. So we can put a lot of parking in there.
If you do that in there, that's public parking. Switch the angle on it. Because right now it's just parallel. Can
we have
put-
looked at that somewhat. There are some problems, but we should look at it again.
I'm going to ask the question. Who in this room wants angled parking? Both sides, 60 stalls. Raise your hand. Okay, how many of you want the mixed parking, which is 48 stalls? Half and half. Keep them up, Travis. I'm going to count. I'm a school teacher. Okay. All right, that was that 12 or 13? It was, we'll go 13. We'll just round up. Nobody cares. Parallel parking, 36 stalls. Clear across the board. It was almost a, yeah. That was the mixed parking.
No, there's parallel on the other side.
Oh, angled only?
That's why it's.
That would be the same as the 36 stalls of the parallel parking.
Area to work over there because if you have all angle parking up one side of the street, no parking and no parking up the other side of the street, you still get the parking because we're not talking like you get out of your car and if you have to go across the street, you got to go 6 blocks, you got to go 50 feet to the front door.
Yeah, but I don't know that we want to encourage people to jaywalk across there if it's not a crosswalk, but.
Who said
the
they
same thing.
jaywalked? Have a crosswalk and walk to the crosswalk.
It's all going to be paved.
I know, but that's what I'm trying to say. All right, so it looks like mixed parking was the more popular option. I know it's a small number, but do you have a bigger number to go
All
off
we
of
really
today?
want, I think our goal is to give you a little bit of input so that you can do it. We're not going to solve it all exactly tonight, but give you some input that we can give you and so you can work with something. Okay, I think that's the goal.
No.
Oh, he's coming.
This is down the road. This isn't something that I'm worried about it, but it's down the road a ways. After the construction, we've got some places on Main Street that really need to be fixed up. Morganson's, yours is beautiful. I love it. You're welcome. Anyway, I'll be for my free thread.
And we are working towards
Yeah,
some.
the facades. I'm
Yeah.
talking the facades.
Yeah.
We've got a lot that look awful, and how are we going to get them to?
This
bring it
is
up?
another thing that we're working on with facade repair and maintenance is, Provo City has done that for a number of years with CDGB grants that we can benefit from. We're going to pick the brains of America Fusi and her people to see how that was managed, and that could be another fund that we could draw
Good.
from.
Okay, thanks.
There's also another fund too, it's historic grants that you can use the funds for too, that people, individual businesses can apply for those.
This is an attorney question over there.
That can work for both front and back, that's facade money.
If we set it up that if a certain percentage of the interior of the building is remodeled, can we require them to meet certain codes and covenants for the downtown area? Or would that be one of those laws that? No, I'm saying that if they came in and says, they want to gut the inside of it and redo it entirely, like for instance, the butcher shop just recently did. They did a ton of work on the inside, but they didn't do anything to the outside. Can we require that in our building codes and covenants that says I was just saying that that's just one example that when they do something, can we?
Let me tell you what usually happens is you put a design guideline together that says this is the level of quality we want all the businesses to be at. And whenever they come to do a building permit is what you're talking about, then they're required to hit those guidelines.
Right, so that we can put those design guidelines in. And I
Right,
think
that
that's
says-
kind of, that would be the first step.
Right.
Well, I'm just saying that when you go to do something to the interior,
It makes you do the
if you
exterior.
do a certain amount of work to a house, you have to bring it to current codes. And that's why I'm saying
And
is
that's the
that,
trigger.
Baseline model. I have to comply with fire code building.
right,
Those are the two baseline. Beyond that, if it's compliant in those areas and the interior just looks like whatever it looks like inside, that's fine. We can control the exterior. We can't control anything on the interior. Unless we have some sort of contract that says, by the way, we'll give you X amount of funds if you'll fix it up.
yeah, and I'm just saying if they do something on the interior, it triggers these requirements on the exterior.
But how do you get, that's what I'm saying. How do you get to that person who wants that business? How do you have to fix that interior to fix the exterior?
No, I'm just saying the one triggers the other. If they do, then they're required, if they come and pull a building permit, which they're supposed to do to change a water heater. But I mean, we're not going to go to that level, but if you pull a building permit for anything else, it says, well, now you've got to meet these design specifications, which sometimes can be a burdensome to people. I mean, the Yummy Thai restaurant, 3 owners ago, they went in and gutted the inside of it and remodeled the whole thing and still has T111 on the outside. And it would have been nice if that point in time, it was flagged and said, hey, this needs to be, the design
So-
standard is that's the term we're looking for.
So one thing I understand is some of this grant stuff, you can do a match and then kind of have a design requirement to get that grant.
And it may very well be covered in the CDBG, the money that we're going after. There may be some standards there as well. I don't know. We'll have to find that out. And I think we're going a little bit far although it's connected, the main thing we need to figure out here is what we want to do with this streetscape and the parking. I think we're going to going to investigate that further, but we've given you a little bit of guidance that can maybe help with the engineering of it. And then yeah, and then I think the other thing that I think you would like to know is, do we want a mix of pavers and cement? Is that something that the council would like a mix? Okay, so I think that's the general feel that we want to mix.
Yeah, so really the next step for us is, so we've got a budget for the improvement of the utilities and the curb and gutter and the road. The next step is to kind of approve J for the next portion of design. So if we're going to move forward with the design as you guys like, we need to get that budget approved to move forward. That's part of that number that we included. So it's for the aesthetic side to have them continue with the work. So we'd really like to just get that approved and then get started with the full design shooting for your guys' budget. And we'll work on a few of those options that we can come back as a working session and look at the parking again, if that sounds reasonable.
So it sounds like if they can hit the target of 8.4, they can look at the mix between the different pavers and the concrete and try to make it look nice. I mean, yes, it will look nice.
Yeah, my fee's on the bottom, but we just do a percentage. So if you want to just do
It's-
8.4, we'll do percentage of that, and that'll be all right.
I think it's built into the proposals you've made.
But we have to prove it so we can move forward. That little bit.
Well, we're approved 8.4, we're in that.
No, I'm talking about your.
Yeah.
That it's in that 8 point, it's in the,
So you don't need us to approve anything, just give you the guidance. Is that right?
Tell us when we move forward so we can get that cash.
no, we've already hired these guys and their fees are in those bids.
Yeah, so we can do that kind of two ways. We can send another proposal over and just get that signed off for the adjustment to the current fee that we have. And that would be sufficient, right, Jay, to get started with the design. We're covered from the civil side with our design. And so we'll just maybe send another price over that includes the aesthetic side and his portion.
So when we did the bid, did that not include that?
We just went up to this meeting.
Oh,
We weren't
okay.
Sure what you're gonna pick as far as aesthetics, the numbers, you can see how they range. Now that we know where your target is, I can zoom my fee and exactly what it's gonna take.
Okay.
So we'll give you that.
We don't need to do anything like until you get us that number.
Right, and you can approve that. and we can
So the mayor mentioned there's a possibility of more money because it is kind of costing more to do that $5 million worth of infrastructure.
Don't know if that's even a possibility.
And I know, but I'm just saying that it might be worth looking at now rather than hindsight.
I don't think it will because they are covering what we have for the infrastructure. This is in addition.
Yeah, what they're actually covering the infrastructure, and we asked for that, and that's what they're covering. This is in addition to that, the streetscape. So I think it'd be really hard to go back to the state and ask them for streetscape money.
No,
Maybe I shouldn't even have floated that.
No, and
suggestion,
it's,
so.
but see, to me, there gets to be a really gray line between, hey, they still have to pay for the other sidewalk. So what cost is that? The essentials of that plan versus the aesthetic upgrade to that plan.
And I do believe we were pretty lucky to get the $5 million, tell you. the
Yeah,
truth.
well, guy can be wishful over here. But that, and that's, so let's just go the 8.4 and call it and we'll run with it. And I'm good with that. Yesterday.
We've already started.
We already started. Okay, are we good? Okay, I appreciate everybody being here and thanks for all your hard work and thanks for the businessmen that are here because we certainly do appreciate and need your input. So thanks.
Mayor, I need a motion to adjourn.
Council, I need a motion to adjourn. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.